Up to the 30, the 20, 10, 5. Torrey Horton back to the end zone.
48-yard play. Guess who? Bonnie up the middle, making another move to the outside. 15, 10, end zone again.
Keeps it. Nice move by Brown. He's got space. He's got 6. 35-yard touchdown for Byron Brown. A record-setting night for the South Florida quarterback.
Third down so far. A little bit of a high snap. Genty right up the middle. Genty has room. Ashton Genty. Give him 6.
Second and long. Lagar tries to pin it in. Runnels. It does. Runnels stays up. The Suns offense 4-3 wheels. Incredible effort for Runnels.
The G5 Hive. All G5, all the time.
Welcome to the G5 Hive Live, and we are excited to bring you another G5 college football coverage week that you love each and every week. I butchered that. It's been a long day. It has been a week for this Monday, but I am Luke. I am joined by my co-host, Justice. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're watching us on X, please give us a follow, a like, or retweet. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, please rate and review. All right, well, let's get into the G5 2020, guys. Give me a second here while I get things set up. Take a quick drink.
While Luke's getting ready, if you're listening to us for the first time, we kind of highlight, we call them our 2020 players, and it's because these guys are top 20 in 2 categories. So at least for the offense anyway. They're top 20 in terms of, for quarterbacks, pass attempts and pass yards. So on the graphics, you kind of see the statistics, but these guys, to make this list on the offense, these guys have to be ranked in the top 20 amongst the G5 in both categories. And we're going to start off here with the quarterbacks.
So last week I went just kind of whoever was first in attempts. This one I kind of went backwards. I went through pass yards and I also looked at attempts. So like if you were high on pass yards and high on attempts, so I kind of ranked these out where almost as if, if I were playing college fantasy football and I were to pick these guys up, how I'd pick them up based off of what the stats are. So Joey Aguilar, number 1, first in attempts, second in yardage in the G5. Number 2, Chandler Morris. He is last in average depth of target, ADOT, 7.2 yards. Then you've got number 3. That is Brett Gabbert. He is 9th in attempts and 6th in yardage. That's kind of a surprising number there. But that's something that I kind of like about Miami and how they might be able to pull up that upset here in week 4. Number 4, we've got Gio Lopez. He's just been solid, been producing very well. I'm excited to see what he's got going on in week 4. Hopefully that turf toe is not aggravated at all, and we get to see him against Joey Aguilar. We get number 1 versus number 4. We get a couple good quarterbacks going in this one. And then we've got Emmett Brown at number 5. We didn't know who the quarterback was going to be coming in, but Emmett Brown, he has the least rushing yards of all of the 2020 quarterbacks. He averages 2 rushing yards a game, and that's without sacks. And then he leads the 2020 group in big time throws with 9. So you're getting a lot of those down the field shots there with him. Number 6, you've got Nicholas Vadiato. A lot of that coming off the big week this week. So we'll see if he's able to stay in this, but he jumped up to number 6. So number 7, we have Jake Garcia. I mentioned earlier, but he leads the 2020 group in turnover-worthy plays with 9. So he's almost like what I call like the Brett Favre of he's just
the gunslinger.
Close my eyes. Someone's down there. Then we've got number 8. We've got Jordan McLeod. He is tied with Emmett Brown and Chandler Morris with 9 passing touchdowns. Quietly, 9 passing touchdowns for Jordan McLeod. Something you wouldn't anticipate. Number 9, J.C. French. Again, doing some good things there with Georgia Southern. I think it's gonna be a tough one there against Ole Miss here. So I can see those passing attempts continuing to go up. We'll see if that yardage goes with it, or if Ole Miss's defense is able to stop the yardage. Number 10, a new guy to the mix, Christian Veillere. He has one turnover-worthy play, and he is last in the 2020 group in pressures per game with 7. So that offensive line doing what it's supposed to do, keeping a clean pocket there for Christian, and he's not putting the ball in harm's way. Great recipe to win some games. Great recipe to get a G5 over P4 win against Vandy. But yeah, that Georgia State, a team to watch there in the passing offense, because they're quietly doing some damage there. Number 11, we've got Braden Shager. He is first in pressures per game with 12. So that offense line not doing him any favors, getting the ball out quick. And then number 12, we've got Devin Dampier. He leads the 2020 group in rush yards per game with 65. Then we've got Jalen Rayner. He leads the 2020 group in rush attempts. Again, not including sacks, with 11. So he's taking the ball off and running. But do we see Timmy McLean or more of him here next week against the Cyclones? And then breaking into the 2020 group is Seth Hennigan. Just a solid performance. Throwing the ball a little bit more. But this offense is going to be dangerous because they're not clicking yet. And I'm excited to see what it looks like when it gets to humming.
Yeah, definitely some surprises.
As you can see, there was a lot more that we added this week. Usually we've been about 9, and now we're 14 deep that are leading all of G5 in pass attempts and yardage.
I expected a much bigger year so far for Jordan McLeod than what he's had to date, but maybe he will pick it up. I would have, if you'd asked me, before the season started, Jordan McLeod, I would have said is number 1. But so he's still got time. We'll see. But that one surprises me a little bit.
So we've got like 79, almost 80 people watching us on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Drop a comment. What was your big surprise there in the quarterback section? Then we're going to move over to running backs. No surprise here. It's an off week, but Ashton Genty, he's the man. He's at number 1. I don't really know what to tell you. Marquez Cooper.
He did move into the number 4. I think was it on 3 in their Heisman rankings. He's number 4, so he cracked the top 5. Like, he should be higher than number 4, but hey, he's in the top 5, and hopefully he'll get that invite to New York come. Was it November, I guess.
Then number 2, we got Marquez Cooper. He is getting a lot of touches there. He's getting over 20 touches a game. I think he's about 22 touches a game. Missed tackles forced. We'll get this with number 4 here too, but missed tackles forced. Anthony Tyus, he leads this group with 26 missed tackles forced. Ashton Genty at 21, and then Cooper at 18. So Cooper number 3 in missed tackles forced. Number 3, Mekhi Hughes. He is 3rd in the 2020 group in receiving receptions per game. So doing a lot there in the receiving aspect, which is great to see. In front of him is number 5, Ishmael Mahdi. He is 2nd in that 2020 group with 3 receptions per game. So again, getting the running backs with a lot of reception work. Great. Anthony Tyus there at number 4, like I mentioned, leading this group in missed tackles forced with 26. And then at number 6, we got Braden Sloan. He leads the 2020 group in receptions with 5 receptions per game. So played, Miami last week.
Yeah.
So, but he's the definition of a receiving back, bell cow. He's doing it all. And then Ontario Brown, 2nd in yards in the G5. with, I should say, second most yards per game in the G5, averaging 85.5 yards per game. The thing that's holding him back, no touchdowns on the ground yet. So that is something that hopefully he finds a rushing touchdown in the near future. All five of these running backs here have 20 or more opportunities a game. The only one that is not in this 2020 list. Do you know who it is, Justice?
I'm gonna say Ontario Brown.
Aaron Young.
And who else?
I'm just saying, like, he's not on this. He didn't make the 2020 group, but he's
there's someone
he's
averaging 20 touches. Oh, Aaron Young from ODU.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So if they were, able to,
he's not utilized a lot in the passing game. That's interesting. Yeah, I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, but yeah, he's averaging over 20 touches. I think he's about like 20. It's like 20 and a half or 22 touches a game. And yeah, not getting the yardage there. That ODU is not allowing him to get that yardage. But that was kind of interesting. But like I said, you got 5 of those guys getting over 20 attempts, which is what you like to see. Now we've got our wide receivers. Again, same thing that I did with the quarterbacks. You got the receiving yardage. I mean, I did the same thing with the running backs, but then wide receivers, I did the same thing with receiving yards and then targets. Nick Nash he's like the Ashton Genty for the wide receiver groups. Like, you're trying to reach him.
Another monster game.
Another monster game. He's giving you 11 receptions a game, and he's first in the G5 with touchdown receptions with 6. The next closest is 3. So he's doing great work there. You got number 2, Cade McDonald. He is second in the G5 he is second in the 2020 group in receptions per game with 8. Then you've got Jamal Pritchett there at 3. Also gives you a good deal there on the special teams. Gives you a punt return. But he's just been super solid. He's at like a 9.5 targets a game. Like, he's nearing double digits targets, which is great to see. Then jumping up, he was not here last week, but Caden Robinson, he's getting 9 targets per game, 94 yards per game. And again, like I mentioned earlier, 0 touchdowns. So this big Caden Robinson breakout is about to happen. Then at number 5, we have Luke Wysong. He is last amongst the 2020 guys in YAC, or yards after catch per reception, with 3.9. So that's kind of important if you're looking at this from, a fantasy football lens, because you're getting the yards and you're getting targets. So he's getting targets, and if you're getting yards, that means you're catching them, and he's not doing a lot with it after. He's catching it and going down, essentially, with a 3.9 YAC after reception there. So, like, that's a lot of targets that he's getting. Now, if he were to break one, that would, wheels up there for Luke Wysong. Number 6, Coleman Owen. He is averaging 7 receptions, 94 yards per game. Again, just like Caden Robinson, 0 touchdowns. We're just waiting for Coleman Owen to be unlocked here. Then number 7, we've got Profili Ashlock. Just solid. A lot of volume there for Ashlock. Number 8, a name that is new, Camden Benjamin. He is second in the 2020 group in receiving yards per game with 96. He's also first in the 2020 group in ADOT, or average depth of target, with 16.2. That kind of surprised me there. So he's getting, the deep balls. He's catching the deep balls. He's second in receiving yards with 96. Obviously, if you're getting those deep balls, makes sense. But like you said, Tulsa looking pretty good here. Setting, I think they're going to be looking good here in the next couple of years. Number 9, we've got Corey Rucker. He's first in YAC per reception with 6.8 yards after the catch. He is tied with Omari Kelly there at, was it number 12? He breaks in after his monster game. Number 10, Damon Ward. He is second in ADOT of the 2020 guys with 14.2.
He's still being pushed up by that huge week 1, right? Because he hasn't done much the last 2 weeks, but he had a humongous week 1.
Yep. And then number 11, another name new to this, tied for second with touchdowns, and he's tied with second with Pritchett, is Devontae Ross with Troy. He is getting a lot of work here, and I think we continue to see Ross prevail here for Troy going forward. So that was a lot. That was 12. I think last week we had, I don't remember how many.
8 or 9. Yeah, we didn't have as many. Encouraging to see some signs of life from Omari Kelly, right? Huge week 2. So hopefully, week 3. Hopefully that's a thing. That's a sign of things to come for Omari Kelly here in 2024.
And then tight ends. Nothing changed here from last week, except for I think I switched. I think
maybe the order changed, but
yeah. So
I think Koziol moved up to number 2. I think.
Yeah. Yep. So again, this is what I looked at when I was looking at targets and receptions. Again, Harold Fannin. If he was in with the wide receivers, he would have ranked 10th with targets per game at 9.5. He's catching 8.5 of those 9.5 targets, and he would rank 5th in yards per game, averaging 102 yards per game. So
that's important, right? Because I think he's the only tight end of this group that if we lumped them together with the receivers, Harold Fannin Jr. would still be a 2020 guy, which that's impressive for a tight end.
Yep. And then Tanner Kozoil, he's averaging 49.5 receiving yards per game, getting you 5.5 targets per game. Holden Willis is getting you Tanner Kozoil is getting you 5.5 receptions, 7.5 targets. Holden Willis and Colin Weber are getting you 6.6 targets per game, about 4 receptions a game. The only difference is Holden Willis is getting you 66 yards while Colin Weber's getting you 47. That was something that we were watching with a new quarterback. What was that going to look like? Weber ends up going 5 for 5 for 63 yards. He had an ADOT of 6.2 over the last 3 weeks for his ADOT. So he's getting the ball. We'll see if they go on to a third quarterback if he also stays involved. And then Dorian Fleming there for Georgia State, 6 targets per game, getting you 4 receptions, almost 5, 48 yards. So him and Colin Weber are about the same. Dorian Fleming has 2 touchdowns, he has 1 touchdown compared to Colin Weber's 0. And then ADOTs are about the same. You've got Colin Weber, like I said, is 6.2. You got 6.1 for Dorian Fleming. So if you want to interchange them, that's fine. But obviously, Harold Fannin Jr. is the guy to know here.
All right, moving over to the defensive side of things and starting off with the defensive line, and we're looking at the top guys in the G5 in terms of havoc rate. Number 1, Mike Green at Marshall. He is the only guy that's been on this list since the beginning of the season. He's moved around in position each week, but he has remained in the top 5 all season long. He has a havoc rate of 0.19. Like I said, made the list all 3 weeks. He ranks 4th in the G5 and total quarterback pressures with 12. Number 2, a newcomer this week, first appearance in our 2020 guys for the defensive line, is defensive end Billy Pullen from UL Monroe. Havoc rate of 0.18, and he ranks 1st and the G5 in sacks for the defensive line with 4 sacks on the season. Next up, second week in a row, defensive end Desmond Little from UAB, also with a havoc rate of 0.18. He ranks second in terms of total quarterback pressures with 14 among the G5. Number 4, Cameron Olds from Kent State, havoc rate of 0.17. Also the second week in a row that Cameron shows up on our list. He ranks 4th in the G5 defensive line in sacks with 3. And then finally, making his second appearance. It's not 2 weeks in a row. He was on here week 1. He's back here in week 3. That's defensive end Jesse Evans from Louisiana Tech with a havoc rate of 0.17. He ranks first in terms of total tackles for the defensive lineman with 14 tackles on the season. Moving over to the linebackers, and these guys are ranked in terms of tackles per game. Jumping back up to number 1, Dorian Hopkins from UTEP, 11 tackles per game. He ranks 3rd in the G5 with stops with 16. So stops are like, that's a measurement in terms of like, hey, you're stopping a guy on 3rd down, stopping him in critical plays, stopping him on 4th down. So he ranks 3rd in the G5 for that with 16. Number 2, a newcomer to this list, Sean Dolak, Luke's Player of the Week, had that big game in week 3. And he comes in also at 11 tackles per game. It's his first appearance, but the thing that's most impressive about Sean Dolak, and I alluded to it earlier, he has a 94% solo tackle rate. Like, that's unheard of. Like, it's not unheard of to have a solo tackle rate that high, but it's kind of unheard of for someone to be on this list in terms of, having a high number of tackles and having a solo tackle rate of 94%. Because tackles, you have solo tackles and then assisted tackles. And oftentimes the high total tackle guys have a lot of assists. And that's not the case for Sean Dolak. So that just makes what he's doing that much more impressive. Number 3, linebacker Jordan Pollard from San Jose State, averaging 10.7 tackles per game. He also ranks 3rd in stops with 16, just like Dorian Hopkins. Number 4 on this list, linebacker Landon Watson from Marshall, averaging 10 tackles a game, and he has 3 total quarterback pressures on the year. So he's getting it done tackling and also getting it done putting pressure on the quarterback here for the G5. And then rounding out this list is a newcomer to the list, Travion Barnes from Florida International. He's averaging 9.7 tackles per game. It's his first appearance in the list, and he is ranked 6th in stops with 15. Moving on to the defensive backs, we have these guys are ranked according to their adjusted net yards per coverage snap. We got a new group here in week 3. And the impressive thing is all these guys have negative adjusted net yards. Like the top NFL guy will be like, around 2 or 3, and these guys are negative. So that's pretty impressive. Safety Al Mahai Ali from Charlotte with an adjusted net yards of negative 0.78. He has 2 interceptions on the year. Number 2, cornerback Cam Lockridge from Fresno State with a negative 0.54 adjusted net yards. He has 3 interceptions on the year, which is near the lead there for the G5. Number 3, cornerback Brian Blades II, Florida International, a negative 0.43 adjusted net yards, and he has a quarterback rating against him of 6.3. That's super impressive, right? Like, so, you hear, especially in NFL broadcasts, they talk about, hey, the quarterback rating is 150 this week or 143, whatever it is. When you target Brian Blades II, your quarterback rating is 6.3. Sorry, super impressive. And if you're just thinking to yourself, hey, that name sounds really familiar. Well, there's a reason. His dad is Brian Blades, wide receiver from Miami that played in the NFL for the Seattle Seahawks, was a Pro Bowler there for the Seahawks at wide receiver. Coming at number 4 is safety Jaden Vosen. He is the twin brother of Devin Vosen, who we interviewed earlier this offseason. He has an adjusted net yard against of negative 0.32. He's averaging 5 tackles per game for the Jaguars. And rounding out our top 5 is safety Caleb Weaver from Sam Houston, an adjusted net yards per coverage snap of negative 0.22. And he has 3 pass breakups on the year, which ranks 8th among the G5. And that's going to do it for our 2020 players for week 3.
The mute button, undefeated. Come back and join us next week as we discuss what happened in week 4, as well as look forward to week 5 of the 2024 season. And as always, we bring you up to date on all the latest news and happenings in the world of the G5 college football. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you're watching us on X, please give us a retweet, a like, and a follow. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please subscribe and leave those 5-star ratings and review. Thank you all for your support. Until the next time, we are the G5 Hive.